All right, let's go ahead and get started. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover everything. I know how busy everybody gets. I want to make sure and make these webinars as concise and as effective as possible. Again, I've got everybody on mute, so if you have any comments or questions at any time, feel free to go ahead and just chat your question or comment in the chat box, and at the end, we'll make sure to get to everybody's questions. But first, before I get started, I just want to give a little background of the purpose of these webinars. Ultimately, the goal of these is not only to keep you up to date on features and tools from Shelvspace, but to really also facilitate knowledge sharing of best practices and key learnings. We are working with some phenomenal companies and really a variety of companies. We have manufacturers and suppliers, brokers and distributors. We even have retailers and have data companies all using Shelvspace. So it's really putting us in a unique position to learn from multiple corners of the industry. So that's what we want to make sure we're passing along to all of our customers, making everybody better. So as the name of the webinar denotes, we're going to start simple on this one. Some of this will be a review for most. So I'm going to go fairly quickly over the features and try and cover as much ground as possible. Again, feel free to ask questions or type questions in the comment box, and we'll address them all at the end here. But we'll go pretty quickly through everything. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to go over the form builder. It's where this is where you want to start as you build out your retail execution plan. Then we'll go over the reporting suite. So you'll know all the different ways to summarize and pull that information from Shelvspace. Then we'll get into our maps, activity map and coverage map, which is really starting to harbor a lot of excitement. We've made some great new additions there, so I think you guys will be really excited about what you see there. Then we'll go over the new store groups feature, which is really how to utilize that and push that down to mobile. And the last thing, we'll just give you a sneak peek into ordering, which we've started to roll out to a few pilot groups. So first up, the form builder. This is where it all starts with creating forms. Forms are the medium to do what different people in the industry may call audits or surveys or store calls, task lists, whatever you want to call it. It's how you direct your team on what they need to do when they walk into a store. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over here to the admin panel. Everyone that was invited here should have administrator access. If you don't, definitely let me know, and I can change your privileges there. But you just go to shelvspace.com, click on login, and that will take you to your admin panel. So with forms, you just go to the menu, click on forms. And I'm just going to quickly go over creating a new form. So I click on new, give it a form name. Oh, back to basics, admin panel. And then I select my manufacturer. So if you're a broker or distributor, you can break out the form by manufacturers who you're representing. If you're a manufacturer supplier, you can break it out by brand family. So for now, I'll just select these are all just example companies I've thrown in there. Then you're going to select your form type. So typically right now we're using two different form types. It's the most common. One is your update form, and the other is your reset form. And just to make it simple, I just want you to think, when you think update form, think CRM, or in other words, customer relationship management. And you can see the description of the form right here kind of tells about the behavior. Essentially, an update form is if you're wanting to go into a store, complete the form, and have access to that information the next time you're in, or just update a few fields, you want to do update forms. So commonly used for tracking who the store manager is, who the buyer contact information, email, phone number, things that you don't want the rep to fill out every time, but just update it as they go along. Reset form, I want you to think audit. That's what it's most commonly used for. It's when you want your rep each time to fill out a fresh new copy of the form. So I select, we're going to do a reset example here. One question that we're asked is, can I make the forms appear and disappear on certain dates? And this is how you do that. You click on select dates, have a start and end date, and that will activate and deactivate the form on those dates. So I'm going to click on create. And I'm sure many of you are very familiar with this. So again, I'm going to go through this quickly. But essentially on the left, you have your types of questions you can add. And on the right is your form preview of what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to throw in, just click on the question type, and you'll start to see the questions being added on the right. On the left side, when you click on the question, you get different question options. So you're naming your question, and you can give it additional sub-label information if you want to add more descriptions to it. Then you also have your advanced options. And again, depending on the question, you may have some different advanced options, but essentially you have, is it required? In other words, they have to answer the question before they can submit. Do you want to allow them to answer NA or have to answer, or if it can be optional? Then you can also include a tooltip. Now, tooltip is really valuable for if you're wanting to add additional information to the rep pertaining to that question. For example, you can attach a planogram or an image. Maybe you want to show what a display should look like, and you want to ask, is this display in compliance with the photo, or is it set up correctly? And maybe you want to add in a paragraph of information as to what exactly it means to be in compliance. So that just allows the rep to tap on a little icon next to the question on the mobile side, and it will appear all this information, including the attachment. A couple others to call out here. On yes, no, we have conditional rules. So if you want certain questions to appear only if they've answered yes or only if they've answered no, then what you do is simply add rule, select if they answer yes to this question, then show the next question. And you'll notice a little conditional appears here to let you know that this is based on a previous question. You also have this nice duplicate. Say this is really nice for if you have a multi or single select and you have lots of options. And so rather than typing it in multiple times, you can just hit duplicate, and then it will duplicate everything within that question, including all of the advanced options. So that's basically how to create a form. I won't go over how to assign a form. I'll send an article about, we have a nice tutorial, step-by-step article with video, but essentially you want to assign forms to specific stores or accounts. So to make sure I'm hitting all of my bases here, we went over update form versus reset form. Update form is typically used for CRM. Reset form is typically used for audits. You can have start and end dates. Let me quickly, divider and calculation questions. These are fairly new. If you want to add break out your audit into sections, you can do that, like if you have your meat section, your dairy section, or it's nice to just simply add instructions. A lot of companies will add a divider at the top and lay out maybe in 3 or 4 sentences how they expect this particular audit to be filled out. So it's just basically a read-only question. Then you also have a calculation question. And this is nice. Again, the rep doesn't have to input anything with this one, but you can sum multiple questions. So, for example, if you're doing facings at multiple displays, you could have 4 different questions about displays into the number of facings and then add a total number of facings that sums up multiple questions. So, again, this just shows up on the report once it's submitted. All right, the other thing I want to hit on is making changes. This is really key. once you have created the form and saved it, if you've just saved it, you can go back and make changes appropriately. But once you've assigned it out to stores, you'll notice that certain questions or certain changes are blocked out. This is in order to keep the integrity of the data. So there are a lot of things that you can change. So I'm going to go and open up just an example form here. So I'm going to edit this form. Because this form has been assigned out to stores, I can't do the following: add questions, remove questions, or rearrange questions. Everything else I can change. So if I want to add in another option, if I want to change the wording, if I want to add some more advanced options, all of those you can change after, but you cannot add, remove, or rearrange questions. If you feel like after you've assigned out a form and you want to do that, you can archive or duplicate this form and create a new one. Then you'll be able to rearrange and assign back out. Now, we also now have a new way that if, for example, you've rolled out this form and you have 100 responses and halfway through you realize I need to change and add a question and it's really important I do so, contact us. We have a way to combine the forms. It's not form responses. It's not easy, but it's definitely something that can be critical to do and important to do. So if that comes up, definitely reach out to us. Now, a couple tips. My first tip that I see constantly work the best is start simple. Start getting everybody using the form. Start with 5 questions. Get people used to it. Get yourself used to it, and then add on from there. And the second tip I would say is ensure you are testing the form at least one time. And I highlighted full, because what I mean by full testing is not just doing it there in the office, creating the form, assigning it, checking it, actually going out to the store. You will be amazed each time you do that how you think, okay, this question could be worded better, the flow could be done better. It is really important before you roll it out to all of your sales reps that you yourself go out and test it at least one time. This will save you a lot of questions and a lot of headache down the road. All right, now on to the reporting suite. It's really critical to understand how the reporting works, as this will dictate how you ask certain questions, what questions you ask, and how you ask it. So first, we're going to start with the dashboard. Discard these changes here. Now, the dashboard is broken out by manufacturer and by user. So if you remember, when we created our forms, we chose a manufacturer. So again, if you're a distributor or you're a broker, you may represent multiple manufacturers. If you yourself are a manufacturer supplier, you may have multiple brand families. So this is how you can break that up. Then as you choose your manufacturer brand family, then you build your dashboard. And your dashboard is just made up of widgets. And a widget is simply a window into form results by question. So let me show you what I mean by that. When I add a widget, I click on add. First thing I'm going to do is choose the form that I'm wanting to choose the question from. So I'm going to choose a Simply 7 survey. Then from that, it's going to pull up all of the questions related to that form. So I go in. Now, not all questions will appear. There are some questions you can't make a widget out of. For example, comment questions, pictures, I believe everything else, dividers, obviously. Everything else can be added as a widget. So I'm going to say, is Simply 7 in the store? That's a simple yes, no question. I'm going to give the widget a name, and then I choose how it's calculated. Now again, depending on the type of question that you select, you may have different options on how it can be calculated, whether you want it to show up as a pie chart, a column chart, or a bar chart. So I'll just select bar chart, click add widget, and now I've added my widget. So I can move these widgets around. I can download individual widgets as JPEG, PDF, print, email, so on and so forth. Or most commonly used is I build my dashboard to how I want it to look, and then I take a screenshot of the entire dashboard, I may crop it and put it in a PowerPoint or something along those lines. So again, a dashboard is made up of widgets that are windows into form responses by question. Next, we'll go into our photo gallery. This is probably one of the simplest features, yet for some people it's their favorite. It's really just a feed of pictures as they come in, so the most recent first. Now you can view all pictures, or you can break it out and filter by form. You click on the picture to see details, including where it was taken, when it was taken, by whom, and for what form, and then from there you can download it and share it. Again, this is really great to come in here and just quickly get a synopsis of what's going on at retail. I mean, this is your window into retail. So it's really nice as a manager to start seeing trends of what's going on. It's great to share with your customers, and, you know, whether it be the retailers or other key stakeholders, to give them a visual of what's going on. Next, we'll go over reports. Now, reports, we've added a few high-level visuals to the default view. So this is your report view. You have at the top here just a summary of what's going on, how many active users you have, how many store visits, form submissions, and then you've got your top forms. So this graph will show total forms submitted over what your selected form is. So if I select store info, I'm going to go and adjust from there. It just gives you a quick overview of the past 7 days, 1 month, and 1 year of your activity. Then you can create custom reports. Now, custom reporting is a way to combine widgets, photos, activity map, comments, etc., into dynamic reports that can be auto-emailed to any number of people on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So there's a lot in here. I'm not going to go over all of the use cases, but I do want to go over a couple of most common use cases. The first use case that we see as most effectively using the reports is just to get an activity report to use internally. In other words, how can we benchmark performance of our reps? So I'm going to show an example of that. Here's one that shows for a week to, or a date to month to date report. Let me kind of go back so you can get a little more of a feel how it looks. When you go into your report and view it, you can just filter by the date here. This one I've added a trend chart and summary chart and a couple key activities that each rep is doing. And I've filtered the rep, or broken it down by, I've broken down the report by rep. So first of all, you can hover over and see exactly who's done what on what day, as well as a summary view of how many store visits have they done, has each rep done, how many orders have they placed, new placements, for example, dollars sold, whatever questions you're asking, or whatever, if you're doing ordering, whatever roll-up information that you want to have per rep, here's a great way to roll up that information. Average of how many, if they're talking to the decision maker, how many have sold product. Again, these are just widgets, just like the dashboard, based on questions within your forms. So I highly recommend building. Everyone should be able to build an activity report, even if it's just simply about how many forms have been submitted. And I recommend this being sent out either weekly or daily to each one of your reps. This will automatically get them incentivized to see how they're stacking against other reps. Without you having to do anything, they're going to be motivated to outdo others in the company. Excuse me. So that's an example of an activity rep, or a rep activity report. Another common use case is a recap of a specific audit or initiative broken out by retailer. So here's just an example of one. If I roll out an initiative, I want to know what happened as a recap. So I build a report that, again, you can filter down by date and see, okay, out of this, there were 12 visits. Here's some more widgets that I created based on the questions. And then I'm going to also have a summary view. Again, the summary view in this case, instead of by rep, it's broken out by retailers, so I can see how batches is stacking up against Fry's, Safeway, and Sprouts when it comes to average price, average display, so on and so forth. And then again, you can also have trend charts. And then what people love, obviously, is throwing in pictures of the store audits. So again, this is great as you're going in to email directly to your customers, to executives, to key stakeholders, and really give them a quick snapshot within seconds. You've got it all right here and can email it to them. Again, this also can be set up to be emailed on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. To do that, let me just go over real quick the settings of a report. When you're creating a new report or editing an existing report, it'll take you to this, which it looks very similar to what your report builder will be, where you add in your different types of, instead of questions, you're adding sections. So the sections you can add are trend charts, widgets, summary, comments, gallery, map view, which is a cool one. It gives an overview of highlights and a heat map where your activity is, and again, column and bar charts. So you click to add your different sections, you edit your settings here, and this is where you add in who you want to be notified if you want it to automatically be sent out. So you put in the email address of one or more people, one per line, and then you tell it, okay, I want this sent out daily, weekly, monthly, and at what time. All right, so make sure I've covered everything here. We went over the dashboard. Again, it's by company. Each user as well, when you log in, will have their own dashboard. Dashboard's made up of widgets. On the photo gallery, you can sort, view, download reports. We went over the overview as well as custom reports. The two tips I would relate to you that we've learned that I kind of already covered a little bit earlier with the reports is, one, ensure that you create a performance-based metrics that you can build into the report. Start simple, even if it's something like number of stores visited or number of form submissions, but really align your reps to be based on these reports, because that way they can get daily updates of how they're doing, and again, being motivated to outperform their peers. And then the second tip is really strive to standardize your questions and reporting. Try and get a feel for your company, particularly how you want to visit every store. What exactly the same questions, whether it's for one product or another product, try and get them to be standardized, and I think you'll really find it becomes more effective when you're reporting to your key stakeholders and customers what's going on when you get a standardized form and report. Now, this is something we are actually actively going to. There's 100 different ways you can set up reports for pricing, for compliance, for promotions, and so we're getting a lot of great feedback, and so we will actually be holding a training later on down the road specifically geared to what we've seen as the best way to set up standard reports and forms. So that's to come, but in the meanwhile, try and do that yourselves, and you'll really see a nice streamlined retail execution plan. Okay, going on to maps. Now, first, the activity map. This is something that's very simple. It maps the actual location of form a submission. So you can go in, the pen is an individual submission. These circles are clusters of submissions. So if I want to zoom in, I click on it, and again, I can click on the individual pens and see the actual submission. So pretty simple. Again, the key here is that it maps the actual submission. Regardless of what store it's tied to, it'll show where it was submitted at. And the coverage map, this is where it starts to get real exciting. So it's a little bit different from the activity map in that the coverage map ties form submissions to individual stores. So let me show you kind of what I mean here. You first can map stores by account or by group. So I'm going to do an example of a Phoenix Beverage initiative, for example. So I'm going to map all of the stores, and we'll go over a little bit later how to create a store group. But here's 95 stores that I've identified as I'm rolling out a pilot promotion, for example. And so last week I've rolled it out, and now I've told my Arizona rep to go follow up on all 95 of those stores. And I want to follow up now on what's going on. I want to see the progress since I rolled it out last week. So first thing you'll notice is, just like you saw in the activity map, each pin now represents a specific store. And your store list here on the right will have it listed here. So from this, I can now integrate or tie either form submissions and or store level data such as scan data, shipment data, and really any kind of data that you have at store level. So the first thing I'm going to do is I created this form that I wanted my Arizona rep to fill out at every one of these 95 stores. So the first thing you'll notice here is as I zoom in, you'll start to see blue pins versus gray pins. Blue pins represent every store that this form was filled out at, whereas the gray ones are the ones that haven't been filled out. So right away, I know out of the 95 stores, how many are still yet to be visited. You can control the markers so you can get that exact count. If I just want to see how many forms or how many stores have a form submission, I click on the blue. Now I see, okay, they've visited 26 of the 95 stores. If I want to see all the stores that don't have a form submission, I click on the gray, and I say, okay, there are 66 stores still left to fill out. Then I can take it a step further, and I can go in here, and I can actually click on the store and get all of the information about that store, including, like I mentioned, any data that I've integrated. We have an example of SPINS data integration. This is just example dummy data. Say you integrated data from SPINS that shows you all of the scans per product. So you can know what the sales were, the quantity, by week and by product. And I can also go back and look at every form ever submitted and every picture ever taken. So you can see the coverage map, when you really start to leverage this, it begins to tell this story. And as you add more and more forms and as you add more and more data integrations, you start to get a full picture of what's going on. And this is where we really want to help our customers win at store level execution. I mean, store level is where the rubber meets the road, and the coverage map is a major way in which you can not only, one, greatly increase your visibility at store level, but also, two, really help to focus your team on the stores with the greatest opportunity. So speaking of which, I'm going to show you how to create, based on from the coverage map, how to create a store group from that. So if I, for example, I notice as I'm going in, I'm researching based on all that information what's going on, I say, hey, this store really has 3 voids, so I really want my reps to follow up on this store. I can start to zoom in, pick those stores out, and select them right there. So I've identified these 7 stores as, hey, these have the biggest opportunities. I now have this Take Action button. If I want to first export this, I can export it to Excel, and that will just download it into a CSV file, or I can create a store group. Now, before I move on to that, I'm going to actually just make sure I've hit all my bases here on coverage map before we get on to store groups. Yeah, the tips that I have here is start building your story. This is a database of information tied to every store, so you'll begin to really know what's going on at shelf. And the other one is, this is really how we feel and see companies winning at store level. I mean, you're going to get better visibility than anyone in the industry as you start to build this coverage map out. So now we'll move on to store groups. And that is I've selected my stores with the biggest opportunity. I click on store group. I can now select an existing, say I've already created a group that's called voids or something along the other. I'll just use the Dan test list. Or I can create a new group. And now I want to say, okay, now that I've selected and identified the stores that I want my team to go to, now I'm going to tell my team to go to them. So I click on select users, and I select the 3 reps maybe that are my Arizona reps, click assign. And now on the latest version of the mobile app, all of those reps that were selected will now have access to and can filter down to that store group. So on their mobile app, they'll have the filter icon. They'll tap that, tap store groups, and then tap void list or whatever you name your group as. So again, it's a very, very easy and effective way to identify stores and communicate that out to your field reps so they know exactly what stores you want them to follow up on. All right. Let me don't annoy you with my notifications. So let me make sure I got everything on. Regarding store groups, so you can add them via the coverage map, or you can add them via the store list. So here's my store groups that I can create a new one. If I want to add new stores, I select it, go to actions, click on assign unassigned stores, and can filter it this way. So there's 2 ways to add stores to a store group. Again, anytime a store group has been assigned to a rep, any stores that you add afterwards will immediately be reassigned to that rep. Then just so you see here the options when you click in here, this is how you control whether or not this group shows up on mobile. So if you're wanting to create a store group more for just reporting purposes and you don't want your reps to have access to the group on their mobile, you just turn that off or on and vice versa. All right, so we went over for store groups, how to add stores. There's 2 ways to do it, and then there's also you can choose to display on mobile as well as display via reports. The most common use case that we've seen is one for routing. So if I want to build a route for my reps, I can either do it myself. If you want to give access to your reps, you can have them build it themselves on the admin panel, but it's a great way to give access to your reps to all stores, but then tell them here are the stores specifically that you want them to be responsible over. And then the next one is identifying certain groups like we went over as a promotion, or if you're doing a specific initiative over certain groups, you can create a group that way. The third way that we've seen is by creating teams. You may create a store group for the East region, West region, Northeast region, and that can be rolled up into reports so you can get a nice summary view by division, by region. All right. Lastly, I want to give you a quick sneak peek on ordering. So ordering, like I mentioned, we have rolled out to a few pilot groups. We've gotten some great feedback. Essentially with ordering, it's getting you away from paper. It's modernizing your ordering and streamlining your ordering process. So you can create invoices and or purchase orders. It creates a nice professional looking template that can be emailed, exported, or printed right there and then. We have some companies that literally will carry around a printer. Others are just emailing it to the retailer or emailing it to the office for them to input. But it's a great way to minimize human errors or input errors, as everything is much more streamlined and it prompts the users on exactly how much their total and subtotal is. It ensures that they know exactly what product they're ordering. You no longer have to try and read ineligible handwriting. And it's a great way to start building an order history and getting metrics. You can build sales metrics into your reporting. You can have a history of all the orders, both in the admin panel as well as per store. So every time a rep walks in, they will now know exactly what orders have ever been placed at that store. So if you're interested in ordering, just let us know. It's still being rolled out in phases, but we'll definitely go through your use case scenario and make sure that the ordering flow works good for your workflow. So just contact us if you want more information on that. Lastly, just want to go over product support. One of the things that we ask of you as we're starting to grow out our team is instead of, even though I absolutely love hearing from everybody personally from my personal phone, my personal email, it really helps to start use the support email, as that will not only notify me just like you would if you'd email directly, but it also notifies the entire team, and we can be much more effective at getting what you need done, including the same with the support line. If you use the support line, this will also route to any available person that can take your call. So you have, like always, you can use the feedback screen within the application. You can call in using the support line or email us directly, support@shelvspace.com. Also, we are revamping our support website. So you may have used it in the past. We've made a lot of changes over the last couple months, and so a lot of that is going to be updated on the website going forward. In fact, after this meeting, I'm going to send you several articles based on the webinar that we went over, including a getting started guide for administrators, and then just a recap on a lot of the features that we went over. So in an email, I'll send you links to that, but it's just support.shelvspace.com, and then you can search through it. So with that, I also am recording this webinar. I'll send that out to you for anybody that may have missed on your team. Statistics show that if you do not attend the webinar, the chances of you actually watching the recording are very, very low. So with this and going forward, I highly recommend you get people to attend or follow up. If you really want them to watch the webinar, make sure that they actually do that. If you have any questions, again, I don't see anything in the comment box, but go ahead and comment that now, and we can address. Otherwise, that is really it. Awesome. As you guys are, before you guys leave, just know, definitely give us feedback. There's a great, for upcoming webinars, the next one is a back to basics for mobile. Please get your reps on board, the ones that are either new or need a refresher course. We'll do the same thing, but on the mobile side. And then we're going to get, as we go along, more and more in-depth into best practices. So if you want to go to support.shelvspace.com, click on announcements, you will see the webinar schedule, can register for the next one, as well as give input on what you would like to see as part of the webinar. Thanks all for joining, and we'll be in touch.